My name is Brittany Doro. I'm an assistant dean of admission at Colgate. I'm also a Colgate alum from the class of 2017. I work with students from all over the country and all over the globe, so specifically Georgia, North and South Carolina, Long Island, New York, and then anybody who's outside of the US who's coming with a citizenship in Latin America, the Caribbean, or the Middle East or South America. So any of you guys are coming from those places today, then an extra special hello. But if not, at some point, please make sure to reach out to the admission office and find out who your regional admission officer is, because we're here to help. I've got a nice group of people joining me today, and I actually want to start maybe with Michelle. Can you introduce yourself to the group?
Hi everyone, my name is Michelle Zhang. I'm one of the Assistant Dean of Admissions at Colgate University. I work primarily with students from the Mid-Atlantic, so DC, Maryland, Virginia, and a small portion of upstate New York, pretty much everything from Saratoga Springs down to Poughkeepsie. I feel like I always need to clarify because no one knows what upstate New York really is.
Yeah.
Everyone seems to use that phrase. Today, I'll be on as the backup moderator. So as soon as the webinar kind of gets started, I will kind of go dark. I will be moderating the Q&A function. So looking forward to that.
Awesome. Thanks, Michelle. And so as you guys should know, we've got three fantastic panelists who are going to be introducing themselves. And throughout this session, the hope is that by hearing from them, you'll really get a chance to learn about this life after the liberal arts concept. So I'll just go in order of the people that I see. So why don't we start with James? Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Folks, my name is James Reed. I am Assistant Director of Colgate Career Services, where I serve as a career advisor, helping students to explore opportunities that they may be interested in pursuing after Colgate. And once they determine what paths or pathways they'd like to pursue, help everyone kind of figure out that path and pursue those opportunities. So welcome.
Fantastic. Damon, how about you?
Hi, my name is Damon Smith. I am class of 97, and my major when I was at Colgate was computer science, minored in theater, also played football, and I'm currently the head of product at Verily Life Sciences, and I'm excited to be here today.
Thank you so much for being here. And Crystal, finish off the group.
Hi, I'm Crystal McLaughlin. I'm class of 06. I was a physics major while I was at Colgate, a minor in geography. Currently, I am an assistant professor in chemistry at Vassar College. So.
Thank you, guys. Okay, so just to give everyone a rundown of how this is going to go. So I'll be chatting with the panelists, throwing out some questions for anywhere to 30 to 45 minutes. So that'll be the bulk of this kind of conversation. Throughout this session, if you think of a question, please share it with us in the Q&A. And then if it's something that's super quick, again, Michelle is here to help kind of moderate those questions. And then there might be some that we really want to answer live. And so after we finish up going through our questions, we'll make a point to transition to a live Q&A session. Please know that we will try our best to get to as many questions, but if we do miss any, I will make sure that my contact information is in the chat at some point. That way you can definitely reach out if you need anything else. But we're gonna kind of just jump right into it. And so I really want to start with just a discussion of the liberal arts education in general. And in particular, having two alumni here, I think it's a great question to just ask what a liberal arts education means to each of them, because I think the liberal arts can mean not only a lot of different things from school to school, but it can mean a lot of different things from person to person. So I'll start with, maybe we'll start with Crystal first. I'd pose this question: what does the liberal arts education mean to you?
Well, for me, it was an amazing experience that allowed me to really broaden my knowledge from what I thought I knew or what I thought I wanted to do. So I came to Colgate knowing very little about what the liberal arts was. And then the core curriculum was really eye-opening. So I was a physics major there, and I feel like maybe if I'd gone to any other school as well, I'd probably do some sort of science, and that would have been fine. I may have gotten like a BS in science somewhere else. But with the core, which is sort of the central part of our liberal arts education, I got to do things like read Friedrich Nietzsche, which I don't think I ever would have even taken that class, like a philosophy class, if I hadn't had to take like core Western traditions, which is what it was called when I was there. But it was so good. I remember taking one of my core classes with an art history professor. Didn't really know what art history was, so I don't even think I would have taken that class. I just happened to take the class with him, and I learned so much in that class. And then when I sort of went to study abroad, I went to Wales to study physics at Cardiff. But then I took like a little trip to France, and I went to the museums, and everything I was learning there about like art history sort of came together. And I really liked that I was able to really explore other things, and then started to see more connections between other stuff. I'm very interdisciplinary now. And I really think that's what the liberal arts means to me. It's just being able to explore a space outside of maybe your central space and trying to fit those connections together.
Awesome. And thanks for highlighting the core curriculum, because I think that's something important to know about Colgate. So this core is made up of 4 classes. 2 of them are literature-based. One of them is science-based, and one of them is a communities and identities course that examines a certain group of people, a certain, really digging into culture and history and economics and all of those important aspects. And so with the core, it's a chance for somebody, who's an English major to take a class on the history of colorants, and like you've got a science class in there. It may not be exactly what you thought you were doing, but we want you to have that interdisciplinary exposure. And on the subject of being interdisciplinary, Damon, when you brought up your majors at Colgate, I resonated quite a bit. I was an international relations music double major, so I love that arts with something else combination. So I'll pose the same question to you. What does the liberal arts education mean to you?
To me, it means being exposed to a balance of the different arts and sciences. I can say the same, that I took classes I never would have taken if they weren't part of the core curriculum. I also took philosophy, but actually one of them, one of the classes I took actually turned out to be part of my minor in theater. Like, I never thought that I would really, fall in love with playwriting or some of the technical arts part of theater and the scenic design part. So being exposed to that, understanding that, it really opened my eyes. Those different literature classes. I mean, I knew coming into Colgate that I wanted to major in computer science, right? But I had no idea that I would fall in love with the arts just as much. So for me, it was the exposure to something, and that actually resonates with me even in my career today. I mean, I find that with a lot of people that I work with, most people aren't doing what they majored in undergrad, especially if they have a BS. Like, most people aren't. And even if you start out in that area, you don't end up in that area. So I find that, not being afraid to be exposed to different areas and different classes, different topics, different subjects also helps in the business world, where you can actually start in one place and then also end up in a different area of the business.
Absolutely. And being able to be interdisciplinary, I think it's important to know that at Colgate, we really want you to take advantage of that. We don't just say it and then, when you arrive, it's like, oh, I came to Colgate to study physics, actually. So I took a very different transition. And in the admission process, when we read applicants, we aren't reading you for a major, we aren't reading you for a school of something. And that's especially the case when it comes to pre-professionals. So things like communications, business, law, engineering, etc., health sciences, etc. Every student is read as a student. You all arrive undeclared, and you have 2 full years to declare at least one major at Colgate. And then we do, of course, have people who choose the option of a double major, a major, a minor, major, double minor, etc., etc. So know that even in the application process, that is something that's important to us, because we know that you have a lot of pressure on your shoulders, but how do you know you want to study astrogeophysics if you've never had a class in it before? We want you to have a chance to take that class first. And kind of on the subject of, taking all this flexibility and all these choices and guiding it into a career path, even if it's not exactly what you thought it would be. I'd love to pose, that question to James of just kind of, how do you guys advise students who come to Colgate with all of these different interests? And particularly, how do you, on the flip side, guys, students who are like, I want to be a doctor, how do I make this happen? How do you manage that dichotomy?
Absolutely. I think that it's important to understand that some folks are dialed in from day one. Other folks, one of the reasons they gravitate towards liberal arts is because it provides that flexibility where they don't have to feel forced into an uninformed decision. And so just before tackling that specific question, one of the additional things, I'll echo Crystal and Damon's response about the liberal arts. I'll also add that I think the liberal arts, as a graduate of a liberal arts undergrad institution myself, it teaches you how to think, how to explore, how to think critically, how to communicate those ideas, how to ask really important, difficult, tough questions. And so with that in mind, that's one of the things that I think is at the core of career development, is asking yourself really important, difficult, and tough questions. Because if you come in and you want to be a doctor or be an engineer from the get-go, great, we want to help you tap into the resources, the faculty and staff and alumni around you that can help to provide information and support and guidance along the way. We also want you to help you as a student think about the complementary pieces to that equation. It's not just majoring in physics. So you can transfer to, pursue a master's degree in engineering, or participate in Colgate's 3-2 pre-engineering program and spend 3 years at Colgate and 2 years in an affiliated engineering program and graduate with 2 bachelor's degrees, which is really cool. I advise on the STEM side of career services, just as an FYI. So certainly we want to take that passion, that enthusiasm, that interest, and we want to dig deep and not only help to kind of then further explore that area. So if you want to go into engineering, there are dozens of engineering disciplines, that one could pursue. And a degree in any one of them allows you to pursue any other area of engineering, ironically enough. And so we want to help you understand the nuances within those professions, certainly. And so that you're taking the opportunity to gain experience, preparation skill, so that you're confident and ready to pursue those opportunities. On the flip side, for students who come in undecided and uncertain, I think that that's where the most exciting part of my work comes, because we want to help you really think about tough questions about interests, values, skills, and strengths, and exploring deep, what are those things that resonate with you, and then helping to connect the dots to potential career areas, industry areas, graduate study, those types of things that will allow you as a student to start to then kind of test the waters of that through your coursework, through campus involvement, through summer experiences, to get a better sense of what is a good fit, and then go from there.
Great, thank you so much.
Can I add a comment?
Yeah, please do.
I was I thought I was on the other side where I knew what I wanted to do. I actually remember writing my essay saying I was going to be a double major in environmental studies and Spanish. Neither of those things happened. And so it was really cool to follow my interests and have great advising where I wasn't really scared. It was I ended up taking a physics class by accident because I had a space in my schedule first year when I got some AP credit, and it changed my life. But so it's okay to think you were doing something. It's also okay to be undecided. I had tons of friends, and now I advise lots of students like that as well. And what Damon mentioned with theater, I pretty much had a creative writing minor as well, but you couldn't double minor. But I loved writing so much, and I took playwriting my senior spring, and it was fantastic as well. 2 was my last English creative writing course. So I just wanted, there's so much to do. Just hearing everybody talk makes me very nostalgic about how awesome.
Absolutely. I'll just add one piece to that, Crystal, that you maybe think of. I just want to be very explicit with this. We talked about courses and faculty, but life at Colgate is so much about beyond the classroom and the experiences beyond the classroom. So many faculty members are pulling in campus events and experiences and are actually creating some of those, inviting speakers and curating art exhibits and things of that nature to provide this really robust educational experience outside of the classroom as well. And it's not all about education. You're at college, you can have some fun. We want you to get involved in clubs and organizations and athletics and all those things as well.
No, absolutely. Everything you guys, have been talking about has really made me think too about, I didn't plan on going into higher education. That was not the goal, but I worked in the Office of Admission as a student. And like you just said, James, I had people who worked in the office who took the time to teach me about their profession. I had professors who were curious about the work and encouraged me to, push certain questions, involved in certain clubs and activities that sparked my interest in international populations in particular. So what you really find is that, there are so many different ways to experience the liberal arts at Colgate. And we believe, and I always tell students that like everything that you get involved with, every activity that you do is getting you one step closer to having that really great post-grad opportunity or, post-Colgate experience. So thank you all for sharing that. Any other comments before I switch to another topic?
Just one other comment. I would also like to add that one of the things I learned at Colgate, both in and outside of the classroom, was about teamwork. Being able to work as a team, work in a group. No one can do it alone out there in the real world, and being able to work with others in different ways, of different cultures, different personalities. You really get that at Colgate in spades. So I really enjoyed that.
No, I totally agree. I love talking to people when they ask about Colgate's competitive culture, because I'm like, no, that's not how we do things here. It's definitely the kind of space where you learn that you're going to get a lot more done when you work with other people, and I think that's valuable. And that actually leads really well into the next question that I want to talk about, which is just kind of, since both of you alumni are adult professionals in very interesting fields, you've had a chance to see kind of what skills from Colgate have been transferable and what skills the liberal arts education kind of provided you. So maybe we'll start, Damon, if you don't mind, with you first. What kind of skills do you specifically think a Colgate education helped you to build? And then how have you applied those just in your professional and post-Colgate life?
Yeah, absolutely. So I already mentioned teamwork, so I'll start with critical thinking skills, problem-solving skills. There are so many complex problems to solve out in the world, especially with technology, that being able to break down those complex problems into smaller pieces, work with a team, solve these problems, have a hypothesis, test it, iterate, fail fast, continue to learn, and have a culture of continuous learning, no matter what your position is in work. That's helped me quite a bit in my career. I started out, developing software, writing code, and I thought that was going to be my career trajectory. I thought I'd be a CTO eventually at some point in time, but my career changed pretty quickly. I enjoyed it. I did well at it, and I ran my own engineering team, et cetera. But as I learned more about business, I went back and got my MBA and continued to work in technical fields. I built software, healthcare software. I realized that I also enjoyed being in front of the customer and delivering that software and understanding their problems up front, solving those problems directly for the customer and the users. And then eventually the evolution led me over to product management, where you're kind of the CEO of the entire set of product, or suite of products that you have, and you get to use your business skills, your technical skills, your problem solving skills, your business development skills, all of those skills coming together. So the ability to think critically, not be afraid to learn new parts of the business, and learn new areas of the business, and pull it all together, and work as a team. All of those things, started when I was at Colgate.
Absolutely, and also too, you're highlighting this, really interesting trajectory. And I think at Colgate, we get really comfortable with the idea of jumping into something new or uncomfortable or something that we haven't tried before. I think, I hope that everyone has that experience at Colgate where they do get challenged and start to realize, like, oh, this isn't a bad thing. You can actually, really gain a lot from that experience. So that's awesome. Same question to you, Crystal. Skills that you gained at Colgate, skills that you've brought with you in your career and professional life.
Yeah, I like what you just said too. I feel like to start there, I think I really gained a lot of confidence at Colgate being able to take on anything. Like, I was a part of so many different groups, so even like the extracurriculars, right? So not even talking about just in the classroom, groups I had no intention of joining, but you meet people, you learn about stuff. I danced with the South Asian Cultural Club for 4 years. I got pulled in at the last second for the first dance fest, my first year. And I was like, well, I've never danced like on a stage in front of people before. And it was so much fun. And I got so much better going on that even in graduate school, I joined a team, a South Asian dance team, both in my grad school and postdoc. But I just feel like I had the space at Colgate to explore whatever I wanted. So it was kind of like a safe space. Like everybody was doing different things and you could really branch out. So then that really gave me confidence later. So it manifests in lots of different areas in my life, in my career, where I'm like, well, you know what? I want to do that. I'm just going to try it and we'll see how it works. So I'm able to go forward with that. So I think being able to really find myself and explore lots of new things at Colgate really helped give me that confidence to take on whatever after. And then also I think, liberal arts, we write a lot. And I come from a science background, and I think a lot of times science majors sometimes don't think about the writing, but you write for pretty much every job. In fact, science, you have to write up what you do all the time. You have to convince people that what you want to do is worthwhile, and that's through a document, like writing all of this stuff. So being able to express yourself really well written, like eloquently, was a really great skill to learn. And I had lots of chances to also do like oral presentations, and I got so much better at Colgate. So it just gave me all these tools to make me better, well-rounded. And that writing component, since it's so central to the liberal arts, is invaluable. I cannot tell you how many times when I was in grad school, they said, I can't believe you can write this well already. Like when I was a first or second year, and I'm like, that's the liberal arts. That's the difference between me and somebody who came in with like a BS degree who didn't get to do a lot of practice writing. They took maybe one like general education course or something, but for us, it's a central part and it is helpful. That is how you communicate with a lot of people in the world. So I think for me, that was a really good skill to take as well.
I completely agree. I actually had a conversation with Dr. Julie Shenantry, who's basically in charge of our pre-health sciences track and really helps a lot of our students. And I remember when the two of us talked, they mentioned, it's one thing to have a biochemistry major and then go and be a doctor. It's another to have biochemistry and an English minor and be able to sit down with a 15-year-old and be able to communicate with them about their diagnosis, or be able to talk to a large group about an issue related to women's health because you studied women's studies. So I think there is a lot of value in that. I'll also say, totally agree with the Dance Fest thing. I know it's not related to the conversation, but just have to plug it. We've got a very vibrant dance community, and we'll talk a little bit more about like bringing clubs and activities into the professional world in the Q&A session. But I was in K-pop. I didn't dance. I totally understand where you're coming from. It's a valuable experience. So enough of that. I want to turn to James and kind of ask, you guys are not done working once a student leaves campus. Like, you are still helping Colgate students even after graduation. There's a lot to talk about. I'll just kind of give you the floor to tell everyone what it is that you do.
Sure. So I know that the question focuses on how we continue to support students once they graduate, once they're alumni. Once we kick you out because you've done everything that you needed to do at Colgate and done it well, right? I say that with love. Like, you're here for 4 years and then we fire you, essentially, and we want you to grow elsewhere, right? And go on and do great things. That's actually, I have to give credit to my colleague Mike Shiola for that one. He has a lot of Mikeisms, and that's one that I love. We teach you how to do education really, really well, and then we send you off to either do that in graduate school or the world of work or service and volunteer opportunities and fellowships and all that good stuff. But really, that foundation of support starts during your time at Colgate. And so some of those things that we do to help support students once they graduate are, helping students to understand the power of the Colgate Alumni Network and great alumni like Crystal and Damon, who this is not their first time jumping back in to connect with Colgate students or prospective students. We provide a lot of alumni engagement opportunities so that students can hear from alumni about what their time at Colgate was like, what their time beyond Colgate may look like, lessons learned the hard way once so that some other person maybe, can take a little bit smoother path, professional insights, those types of things. We provide a lot of skill development opportunities related to career paths. So Damon has been involved in our Prep for Tech program, where we do a weekend of technical interview prep for students interested in tech and in software careers. And so we do a lot of that early and often throughout students' time at Colgate so that they're prepared with those foundational skills. And then once you're a member of the Colgate family, you're always a member of the Colgate family. So we're here after students graduate to check in. Maybe after a couple years of work, students want to then pursue a graduate degree, and they're not quite sure how that process works. So we're here to help advise them through the graduate application process and timeline, and make sure that they're connecting back with their faculty for letters of recommendation and checking back in. We work with alumni who, and to be honest, we're probably best positioned to work with alumni who are 0 to 5 years out of Colgate in that early career or education, post back educational stage. But I just had a conversation with an alum today who's been at their place of employment for 2 years, has loved it quite a bit, but now they're ready to take the next step and looking for new challenges and opportunities, going after promotion, wanted some feedback on their resume and some tips on what that next step is going to look like. So we're here to help strategize and talk through. I like to say that as a career advisor, I'm not here to have all the answers, but I'm certainly here to help students and alumni find answers and think about, who are the people and what are the resources that they have available and can turn to get to where they want to be. So we're here to make connections. We're here to help students leverage the great liberal arts education that they receive. And to be honest, that does a lot of the work for us, right? And then we're just here to be an additional resource and provide some insights and guidance beyond that. So, and Damon and Crystal, as alumni, feel free to jump in if there were specific pieces that you took advantage of after graduating. And I don't want to have that only focus on career services. I think the entire Colgate community, faculty and staff, love to hear from alumni and circle back and help.
Yeah, it's true. I think I remember reaching out to career services maybe some years into grad school, and they gave me a list of other Colgate grads who were professors that I could reach out to because I decided that's what I wanted to do. But even before that, the very first research talk I ever gave was my advisor invited me back to Colgate to talk to the department about what I was doing in graduate school. And then I was able to come back another time near the end of my PhD as well. And all the professors met with me and gave me advice about going on the job market and things. It was really nice. Like, everybody was willing to talk to me. They kept inviting me back, so I got more of that public speaking practice and really talking about, what my new career would be. And I felt really supported by my department and by professors who weren't even in my department. So, for example, I was a physics major, and I now teach chemistry, which seems like a very weird thing, but if you knew what happened in between, one of the things that happened was I got a PhD in biophysics, which is kind of like a nice bridging interdisciplinary science. And I'd gotten into graduate school, and my senior spring, I thought maybe I should take some biology since it's been a long time. And I took cells, genes, and molecules, which at the time was like the intro bio course. It was me and a bunch of first years, like who were all pre-med, and I was like, I'm just here to learn. This is so much fun. And Ken Belanger, who I think was dean for a little while, and now he might be back, he was my professor, and it was an amazing course. And he and I are still in contact. And when I went on the job market for the first time, I only took that one class with him, my senior spring. So that was it. And every time I came back, he would talk to me and give me advice. I would update him about what was going on. I sent him some of my materials when I was going on the market, give me feedback. And so I cannot impress upon you how supported I felt by everyone in the physics department who helped me, as well as even a professor that I just took one class with my senior spring. That's sort of my connections. One of my best professors here from Colgate, I never took a class with her. I interacted with her through the Caribbean Students Association, and I just emailed her 2 days ago. She texted me on Sunday as we were talking about reaching out to other alums. I think those kinds of connections. She was an English professor, and I never ended up taking a class with her, but she's still one of my closest connections because of that kind of thing. So it's been really great. I think after Colgate, I've been really supported by Colgate.
Awesome.
I mean, I felt supported by Colgate while I was there. I mean, the professors were very helpful all the time. I remember the saying, an A with help is still an A, so don't be afraid to reach out for help when you're there. And I enjoy coming back, and a lot of Colgate alumni. It feels like a fraternity to me. Everywhere I go, every business, every new company I enter, there's alumni, Colgate alumni everywhere. So they're Colgate alumni, and they're always, it's like a fraternity. They're the alumni. They're approachable. They reach out to you once they understand that you're from Colgate, and always willing to help. So I've enjoyed that, and I try to give back and help myself. So it's been great.
Absolutely. I always, when students ask me to describe what makes our alumni network different from other schools that have an equally large, alumni community, I always bring up the fact that when you meet an alumni, you guys are friends first, and then they'll provide you that professional development additionally. There's that familial level, and I definitely agree with Damon. I've had times in the airport during admission travel season, got my Colgate cap on, maybe wasn't looking for a conversation, but man, if they find me, we're having a conversation. Alumni that have reached out to me on LinkedIn simply saying, I saw that you're a recent grad and I wanted to connect with you. And really, you're building up this community of people who are coming from different disciplines, different places in the world, different backgrounds. But, one day, maybe you do take that bio class and start to think about that as a new trajectory. And, maybe you do meet that alumni that has that perfect connection, the one that you've been looking for. And because you're connected to Colgate and our traditions and our experiences, you can have a normal conversation and you can, feel more comfortable in that process. It feels weird even for me. I have students come into my office, or until recently come into my office and ask me about admission work. And, this is year 4. I haven't done it for that long, but I still have students who see there's an alumni in the office and feel comfortable to come in and say, I have questions about this job and what makes it easy and what makes it hard. And as an alumni, I kind of feel an obligation to tell them and be honest with them and provide them that support. So awesome conversation, you guys. I have one more question, and I'll kind of open it up, and then if people want to share comments, they can go ahead. But I think we started to touch on this a little bit, but I think the conversation of value comes up a lot. And, when you are applying to a school or looking at a place to make your community, part of your conversation is, what value is this school's education going to give me? And we've touched on a lot of things today, but does anyone have any additional comments that they'd like to share about just kind of the value of a liberal arts education? Again, we've covered a lot, so if not, no worry.
Damon touched on this, and I'd just like to reemphasize it in maybe a slightly different way. But as he was talking about how, his Colgate education, has contributed to every facet of his professional experience, and it's helped to prepare him for all of these things. I think that that's really the value of a liberal arts education, is that it prepares you really well to lead, and work with others. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a leadership role, but it could just be a strong presence within a team. Someone with a liberal arts background is a strong communicator. They're an effective listener. They ask critical questions to make sure that things aren't being overlooked. They have a strong skill set, for the day-to-day tasks of the position.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think Colgate prepares folks really well, and a liberal arts education prepares folks really well for their first opportunity outside of Colgate. I think it prepares you even better for that next opportunity and the one beyond that, because you're just there to make sure you're leveraging the talent around you and pulling all the pieces together in great ways. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah, I would only add that, Colgate teaches you how to learn. And, everywhere you go, you're going to have to learn something new. Every new job, every new career, even on existing jobs and new projects, new years, new initiatives, you have to learn something new. You can't be afraid of that process. And tackling or being proactive about learning new things and learning new skill sets, I think that helps a lot. And I think coming out of Colgate, you're not afraid to go in and learn anything new. So.
Sorry, were you going to say something?
No, I disagree with all of that. It's perfect.
Awesome. I would just add one more piece, and I know I'm not a panelist, but I'll just add it anyway, that I think that one of the values of a liberal arts education is every class doesn't look the same. Every teaching style doesn't look the same. And I think sometimes when students are looking at schools, there's this expectation, I always talk to students and they're like, oh, I assume it's the, big lecture hall and 300 people, and I sit in the back and I take my notes for an hour and then I leave. And, we have maybe 4 classes like that at Colgate, like maybe. But in between that, we've got classes where students are modeling a UN simulation of during the Rwandan genocide to understand humanitarian crises, or they're getting handed, a sample genetic mutation and spend the semester figuring out if it'll cause breast cancer. There are classes where you can take a hands-on approach, or, maybe you find professors you connect with and you're a more introverted person and they help you develop skills to be less introverted. So I think when you're in kind of that smaller liberal arts setting, there's a lot of opportunities for you to find the style that works for you and also learn to adapt to the class types that aren't necessarily your strongest fit. So that's something I think in particular we do really well here at Colgate. But awesome. So first of all, thank you for all 3 of you going through. I know I threw some big open-ended questions at you, but you've all answered them very well. And we have just a couple of additional questions. I will say, if any of you out there are still have some questions that you'd like to have answered, feel free to, again, just put it in the Q&A. But I want to kind of go through a couple of these that I think will be really helpful. The first one is, have you taken any things that you enjoyed, so arts, sports, etc., and used those skills after graduating? And as an arts person, I have my answer, but I would love to hear from David and Crystal, what things you pulled from particularly from clubs and activities. And I know, again, you guys have touched on some of those, but if there's any other things that you want to add to that, go right ahead.
I'll add a little bit. So as I mentioned earlier, I had a great career at Colgate. I majored in computer science, minored in theater, and I also played football. So I had a lot of team activities. And everyone is not easy to work with, right? So when you get out there in your career, you are going to encounter some people who are not easy to work with. And being able to having that experience of working as a team and having people who could be difficult to work with, but accomplishing a shared goal, being able to work with them anyway, being able to problem solve, understand their perspective, and come to a common ground that allows you to continue to move the task forward is very important. So I had that experience, and it's helped me tremendously in my career.
Thanks. I would say that as somebody who studied music and the arts, most people assume that I'm not an introvert. They always assume introverts are these, quiet, can't present to a group. But in doing the performing arts, you build a lot of confidence in speech and presenting and all of those aspects that can make you a really compelling person in a workforce. So not to say I'm compelling, but basically through using music and study of the arts, I felt like that was a skill that I was able to work on that maybe I wasn't initially comfortable to do inside of the classroom. So again, I should have mentioned this, I'm also the music and arts liaison, so that's why I'm a little biased in this conversation. If any of you have questions and are planning to apply and have questions about music and arts supplements, I am excited to hear them. So yeah. Anything else?
I mentioned that, I started dancing at Colgate, which I still do, and it's pretty awesome. And then I think trying to figure out how to say this, but I figured out I was a good leader. And it just because opportunities presented for themselves in groups that I was part of. So like in the Caribbean Students Association, eventually I was the prime minister of the Caribbean Students Association my junior year. And like going in, I had never held any leadership positions or anything like that. I also was a part of Tri Delta, and I held a leadership position there. And that one was really interesting because in the sorority, you don't get to say, I want to do this position. The group says, I think this person is going to be a good leader. So again, that was really cool to see that people saw that in me. And then eventually I was president of the physics club my senior year. So again, none of these things I thought I was going to do. I had gone in with 0 leadership positions. And I think it sort of comes back to that thing where I said earlier, where I gained a lot of confidence when I saw what other people saw in me. And I was allowed to practice and grow that skill in a lot of places at Colgate. So that was really cool to get all those opportunities and have people encourage me and sort of push me forward. So I feel like that was a good one to take.
One thing I'll interject here is that as Chris and Damon are talking, Colgate provides a lot of leadership opportunities, One of the things that college in general, I think, provides is it's an opportunity to do so much. There are so many clubs and organizations at Colgate. And if there's not one that you're in, like if there's one missing, you get to create it, right? There's a process to create the club and pull a club together. So essentially opportunities are endless. And one of the things I often talk with students about is trying to within your, pursuits after Colgate is how do you find that balance of not making it all about your job, right? Or trying to pull things into your professional world and professional life that you enjoy so work doesn't feel like a grind. But ultimately, hopefully the job isn't going to be the only thing or your, whatever you end up doing for a living after Colgate isn't going to be your only focus. And that's getting involved in the community. And so if you're involved in, theater, at Colgate, you can do that outside of your job, or maybe even a lot of larger like organizations. I'll use Google as an example. They have a lot of clubs within their companies, so that you can continue to enjoy those hobbies and interests beyond. And so I talk with a lot of people a lot of alumni who take the things they did during Colgate and are now doing them outside of work, within their community, whether it's a rec league or a community group or things of that nature. So Colgate prepares you well for all of those things, not just, a job after Colgate, but life after Colgate.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to vouch for kind of the ease of forming clubs and activities. My middle brother, who just graduated, computer science, art and art history double major, established the esports team on campus, and it was
Mhm.
it was a lot easier than it should have been in hindsight. But one of the things that I think is great too is that Colgate has pretty substantial financial resources for students who are running clubs and organizations. So we recognize that a job is not just going to be the classes you take, but if you're somebody who's really passionate about non-for-profit and you want to be involved in that in a club or activity, there's a lot of value to that as well. So James, thanks for adding that in as well.
Yeah, and just one thing, Brittany, make sure Ethan has it on his resume because I don't think that he does.
I didn't realize you knew. I'll make sure to do that. That's too funny. Oh my God. See, guys, we're just having a candid conversation between career services and some alumni. This is how it happens. Awesome. Great. So I've got a few more questions. I've got one question actually directed specifically at Crystal, but I'll open it, of course, after you've talked to anybody who wants to share as well. They're curious to learn about, as somebody who took on graduate school and thinking about how studying at Colgate made you feel prepared for that, and anything that kind of really made a difference or made graduate school work for you.
Actually, can you repeat the question really quickly? You cut out just for a second.
Oh, sorry. This student is asking just kind of about how Colgate prepared you for graduate school and what you thought was kind of the best thing that you were able to bring into that experience.
Well, I think as a science major, the best thing was I got to do 2 summers of research and an entire year of research for my senior thesis at Colgate. So the year of research for my thesis was guaranteed, which was great. And then the 2 summers weren't guaranteed, but they were amazing, like on top of it. And I got to explore a lot of different kinds of science. In terms of, I was in the physics department, but for example, my first summer, I did something with nanotubes and I hated that. Luckily, I continued on. And my second summer is when I discovered biophysics. And so it was really great that I was able to stay on campus. So I was an international student, so I came from Trinidad and Tobago, and it was great that Colgate had the resources to allow me to stay so I could apply for positions on campus, because it actually was very hard to get a position as an international student outside doing research. So the fact that we had our own little, it was fairly large actually, research program during the summer, and that it paid for me to live there and everything like that was really good. So I say going into graduate school, I knew that I could do research. And I think that was very unusual to have so much research. And so that was really a good thing. And I think I felt really prepared. I did go into biophysics though, and I had to take chemistry my first year, and I felt very unprepared for that. but as you can see, it worked out.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think it goes back to what Damon said, which is that you learn how to learn, and you can take on any challenge. And there was an advanced biochemistry, and I was like, I could do this. I can learn this. I was prepared at Colgate. I did something I had never done before there. I'm going to do it here. And so I think really though, those opportunities to do research was one of the biggest things that helped me in graduate school.
Absolutely. Awesome. Any other comments?
So I'll just add a couple of things. I'll just quantify. I think Colgate has around 225 to 250 students conducting research each summer. And so that's at Colgate, that's participating in Colgate affiliated research opportunities and things of that nature. So again, I certainly think there are a lot of opportunities built into the Colgate experience to help students gain experiences, to try things out for size and realize they don't like nanotubes. And things of that nature, but also to discover their interests and passions, certainly. A couple other things about supporting students to graduate school. It's about the process, developing relationships with faculty, so that you're going to have people in your corner to write strong letters of recommendation when it's time. Career Services works with folks to help them think about the preparation process of identifying possible schools and programs, researching those, preparing and working on applications, and going throughout the process. And I can't emphasize enough, it's a collaborative effort, because it has to be not just career services, but Colgate faculty members, other people within students' lives to serve as recommendations and references and things of that nature. And I think that's the beautiful thing about Colgate. We're collaborative across the board. And then finally, I'll add, this is one of the things that we're moving in closer and closer to, is providing some resources to support students who are applying to graduate programs, because there are application fees, and we recognize that can be a challenge. So we are putting resources into that. So if students are facing barriers and hurdles, we want to try and break those down. Certainly, to not just help you while you're here, but help you accomplish those goals beyond Colgate.
Absolutely. Damon, anything else you want to share, or do you feel like we covered it all?
Well, I think he covered most of it. I mean, me getting into graduate school, I had no issues whatsoever. It was a breeze. Recommendations were easy. I felt more than prepared, and I had even a couple of classes I didn't have to take based on the classes I took at Colgate. So it was fun for me going to grad school. Awesome.
That's what we love to hear. Thank you, everybody. I have a question that is an interesting one, and I'm curious to see if anyone has any thoughts on this. So while at Colgate, were there any specific classes that challenged your views or beliefs on the world, the community around you? Anything that you can think of, and if not, I'll give an example. And James, if you've heard of a class that particularly a student has been affected by, you can share too.
For me, it was one of the core courses. Mm-hmm. So it was called Western Traditions at the time. I think it's called something different now.
The Legacies of the Ancient World now.
Yes, but I remember very clearly we were reading the Bible, and then we were also reading Bible chapters that had been left out in when they decided what went in, and I had never read any of those before. Mm-hmm. And that was mind-blowing to me, like reading all these different texts and different versions of them and how they have evolved sort of over years, and that was very, very impactful for me, just learning about that.
Thank you.
I can't think of anything.
I'll give an example. One of my favorite professors, I'll give a shout out to her, Professor Noor Khan, is a fantastic Middle Eastern and Islamic Studies professor, and I took the history of the Ottoman Empire in my sophomore year. And I think one of the things that I think is maybe a flaw in the public American education system is not getting a chance to really delve into some of the really interesting international communities and their history, and particularly the Middle East. Thinking about the narrative that is built sometimes around those conversations. And for the first time, I was learning about music and the arts and literature and science and all of these really fascinating aspects of Ottoman culture and the way that kind of obviously spread with the empire growing and shrinking. And it was the first time that I was like, wow, these are things that I should have learned about in high school. And these are communities that really presented so much value to just the world's development. And that class, alongside some of the classes I took in East Asian studies as well, it really gave me a chance to see that there are a lot of narratives and a lot of conversations and a lot of things that we should talk about and learn about. And even if you're not going to go into that as a field, or you're not planning to move there someday, I think it is really important. One of the goals of a Colgate education, there's 13 of them on our website, is to be an informed global citizen. And I think that taking a class like that, or even just again, a class in a different discipline, opens up those opportunities. So I found that to be personally really valuable. And she's one of, just like Crystal said, professors still reach out to you every once in a while. I see her all the time. She's always recommending books. It's fantastic. So she's a great professor if anyone wants to reach out to one. Anything else?
It's really interesting, just really small points. So you took something that was very different to your culture. I actually ended up taking core Caribbean with my college roommate who was from New York. And I was like, I thought this would be a really interesting thing. And I learned so much about other Caribbean cultures and how that fed into what I believe and how I fit in like this whole bigger picture, like being in America now. And it was really, so even though I came from that culture, I was able to learn so much more because I had a narrow slice of knowledge there. And I have students that come here too, so like students who are Latinx, and then they take Latinx studies and they learn so much, they say, about their community, and it really enhances their knowledge and makes them feel much better. And I think even like taking something that you think you know a lot about too, really enhances it. So,
yeah, I can say I did have a similar experience with that. When I took the Black diaspora, I thought I knew, you know, American history and how the migrations of Africans over to the United States, but I learned a ton of that. I mean, I realized I didn't know much at all about it, but I learned quite a bit in that class. So.
Awesome. I'll throw out one more question, because I know we're getting pretty close to 8, and the last thing I want is it to shut off when we're still talking. And I actually want to pose this question first to James, and then if anybody else has any thoughts, but I think maybe you might be the best person to talk on it. So there's a question regarding just how students grow from first year until, you know, senior year and that graduation point. And given that career services interacts with students of all class years, not just juniors and seniors, have you had any experiences where you've seen students grow, or can you give any examples of how you see first years kind of developing in those 4 years?
Absolutely. I'm tempted to go with a lame dad joke that, oh, they definitely get taller. But sorry, I did it.
It was a pretty genuine laugh. You're fine.
So, oh my goodness, yes. You know, and you know, this isn't to say that students don't, like, I'm constantly impressed with every class of students that come to Colgate. Because I just, when I think, wow, this is probably the most talented class and the most engaged class I've ever seen, the next crew comes in and I'm like, oh my goodness, here they are again. But certainly, you know, I could point to example after example, but some of the characteristics of that stand out to me are students who are willing to come in and say, I don't know. Right? I'm here because I want to know about Colgate, or I want to know what career services does. I'm going to have a career at some point, I imagine. Here's what I think it might be, but I don't want to zero in, or I don't want to zero in. Or the students who come in to say, I know that I want to be an engineer, but I know I have a lot to learn. You know, those are the folks that you just know are going to be successful. From the get-go, because they're here to ask questions. They're putting themselves out there by being a little bit vulnerable, so, you know, first-year students getting into classes, taking a variety of classes, satisfying their core requirements, trying some things out. They know they enjoy STEM, but they're not sure if it's chem or bio or physics, or they know they're not a STEM person, but they're going to take that chem class now and get it out of the way. And also dabble in areas of humanities that they're excited to learn about. And then as they progress through, you know, sophomore year, now it's kind of narrowing focus a little bit and zeroing in on those pieces that they're excited about and really enthusiastic about learning. And then thinking about, okay, what could I do with this? Or I know I want to study this, but I don't, like, I want to study computer science. I love the problem solving and analytics, but I don't want to be a software engineer. You see that progression of maturity and thought and folks that are again willing to ask those questions and explore things, and honestly are just looking to engage with people around them to learn, not just from their experiences, but from the community, their peers, faculty, staff. You know, and then ultimately get to senior year and want to give back, right? And say, I learned this stuff. Is there an opportunity for me to maybe speak with some first-year students about what I learned during my internships? Yes, the answer is yes. We'll make that happen any day of the week.
Awesome.
So those are some of the types of things that I see.
All right, and with just about 30 seconds to spare, I want to thank all 3 of you for really sharing some insightful information. I hope for those of you who've gotten a chance to listen, you've recognized how excited and genuine and how much we want to talk to you. Michelle and I have shared our contact information, so if you have follow-up questions, please let us know. But thank you guys so much, and with 2 seconds, have a good one.